Hello, hello, and welcome back to the show. I am so excited about my guest today. I'm going to just say, I will introduce her, but I just have to tell you that I went on a search for this woman a few years ago when I found human design, and I was desperately looking for a 6'2" that could explain or help me or give me something to lean into. And I found Marianne's name online. And I saw that there was a book. And what did you call? Is it the blossoming?
No, it's a revolution of one.
Right, but the actual 6'2" off the roof. What do you call?
Yeah, flowering as myself.
That's what I found. Flowering as myself. And I was like, what is this? And I started going into like reading some of it. And I said, I don't know if this woman's still alive, but I'm really find her.
I am now.
I swear that was it. I was like 48 years old. All right. So Marianne is a 6'2" human design generator. And you were an original student, which you call Ra your friend. And we've had quite a few encounters over the last few years. We've done some one-on-ones. I've been to your immersions. I go to your gatherings. And when we're in conversation, my body just calms. And I know you don't call yourself like a coach or a leader or a mentor or any of those things, but to me, a mentor is someone who leads by example, which is a role model that's being themselves. And I think that's why I'm so drawn to time with you. So I want to thank you for coming on and doing this.
I never did this live before. This is pretty cool.
Are you good with it being live?
Yeah.
So, Marianne, can you tell the story of when you first found human design and then kind of give us that information about your experience with searching? Because you've talked a lot about you were on a spiritual journey, you did all the things. And so would you elaborate on that?
I think it would be good to start with before I met human design, because I was searching. You know, I had this, for as long as I can remember, even when I was really young, I had this longing inside. I knew there was something and I didn't know it, or I didn't have it, or whatever you want to call it, but there was this longing. And, you know, my age, I'm in my 70s. And, you know, I experimented with searching through different hallucinogenics way back in the early 70s. And then I read, you know, in those days, there was no self-help. There was no coaching. There was nothing. I mean, if you were searching in those days, because I'm going way back, you had psychology or psychiatry. And I remember finding a book, Be Here Now by Ram Dass. That was the only book I found, you know, and I'm reading this book going, oh my God, you know. And then, of course, the Moody Blues, Cat Stevens, Pink Floyd, you know, all of these. I mean, I'm showing my age, guys, but all the music and what they were saying. And it just kept me longing. It was like, there's something. And then I remember what I remember was I broke up with my boyfriend at that time. And I was divorced, and my daughter went back I was living in California, went back to be with her husband, her father, my ex-husband. And I had hit rock bottom. I mean, really. And this is the part of the 6'2", you know, I mean, I was about 26. I wanted to kill myself, everything, you know, if any of you are 6'2s, those first 28 years, if I had known and understood that as a 6'2", my first 28 years were going to be one quote mistake after another, and everything is going wrong. And here you're supposed to be a role model and all of this, you know, it would have saved so much psychological, more than disturbance. I don't even know what, I mean, psychological damage. I think that's how I would explain it. So anyway, I remember going out early in the morning in San Francisco and coming across a book of Osho, who was Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh at that time, and then opening it up and just collapsing on the floor crying. And it was like, oh, I had hardly any money. I had to buy this book. It was hardcover. There were no paperbacks. And I'm reading it, and I'm walking around San Francisco and stopping and going, oh my God, this man, you know? And so I was able to save money, and I went to India. That was just when I turned 28, which is for 6'2", for those of you who know, or those of you who don't know. We have 3 different stages in our lives. And that stage was going on the roof, where you start to remove yourself from the world somewhat, and you hopefully you regain your optimism, because we're here to be optimistic. And the first 28 years, you just sink into pessimism because everything is going wrong. So that must be a wedding. You can hear all the beeping.
I can barely hear it, but there's a little.
Oh, okay. So I went to India and I was searching, and I never really went, I was raised Catholic, and I never really felt Catholic. I always wanted to know, why do I have to go to a church? Why can't I sit under a tree, you know? And so I went to India, and that became a real spiritual searching. And then that was the first time I heard enlightenment. So my mind thought that what I was searching for was enlightenment. Oh my God, did I end up going down such a road that was only going to be, how to say, disappointing, frustrating. And my mind never thought, you know, that it was possible, all of these things. So anyway, I was with Osho for many, many years. I won't even get into that whole story, because that's another whole story. And then he died, and I was still searching. You know, I meditated. We celebrated and meditated, and in the meditations, I would get to this place of amazing quiet inside. But then you're back in your life, and whatever you found in that quiet is gone, you know? And then I sat, I went to, I was longing, okay? I was searching. I hadn't found anything yet. I went to Krishnamurti. I went to Punjaji, Papaji. I went to Gangaji, Shanti Mai, Robert Adams. I mean, I was looking everywhere. And human design came into my life during that period of I was still searching. But what human design was then, it was about loving yourself, no shame, no blame, no guilt. But it was only about the channels and the gates and the lines. There was no strategy. There was no type. There was no inner authority. So I loved the knowledge. I thought, wow. And I thought I was loving myself, because even though I was longing, at this point, I was really enjoying my life. And then Ra came to town, to Sedona. And I had known the woman who was running human design in America at that time. And she came to my home and stayed there and did a few introductory evenings in Sedona, but I never had met Ra. So she came with him one time. He stayed in this one place. She stayed with me. And part of her taking care of Ra was we had to make sure he ate, and she didn't have a car. Ra didn't have a car. I had a car. So we'd pick him up for lunch. We'd go to some restaurant and dinner, and so it was a very casual way of meeting him. And then I went to the intro evening, blown away by this man. I mean, I knew already that this guy's unique. This guy's really different. I never met anyone like him, and definitely not spiritual. He dressed in black, smoking, so different than my whole spirituality from the Eastern philosophy, okay? So we met like that, and I went to the intro evening, and I just knew I wanted a reading with him. So I had a reading, and he told me about my design, and he brought everything back to, you need to stop initiating. You need to wait. You need to wait for life to come to you. And life has to come to you and ask you in a yes/no way. Do you? Can you? Will you? All of these yes/no questions. And then you go, uh-huh or uh-uh. You make sounds. That's your inner authority. I have sacral authority. And I'm like, whoa, this is really different. And I remember the one thing on my chart that he said was, because I have an open solar plex, and the solar plex in the 9 centers of human design is the center of the emotions, and I have an open one. And he says, you are not emotional. You've never been emotional. You're not emotional. And I'm thinking, well, this guy doesn't know me at all. I'm the most emotional person I know, Little did I know, later on, I realized, oh my God, I'm not. I've just been taking them all in my whole life and amplifying them. So he told me that's what he told me, basically. He told me about my chart, but everything was about me responding to life. And it was, I think like maybe a few days later, he was doing an introduction course on the 4 different types, 2-day workshop in Sedona. And I went to going. And he just laid it out there on this whiteboard. And I was like, wow, this is the recipe for harmony on this planet, And here he's the manifester, and it's about not approaching the manifester. The manifester needs to be the one to initiate. So I'm in this class with everyone, and then he smokes, so he takes breaks to have a smoke, and everyone goes up to him. I was like, wait a second. Weren't you in that? Didn't you hear? I mean, he's a manifest, And so, yeah. And then that began. And what happened was, he asked, it was lunchtime the first day. And he says, Marion, you come to lunch with us. I went, mm-mm. And I remember getting in my car and driving and crying and crying and crying, and then stopping and then just crying, and then coming back to the hotel and sitting at the pool, and my feet are in the pool. And, with going to India and becoming a sannyasin, it was dying to the old self in a way. We got a new name, we wore different clothes, and it was to leave that other person in the past so you could begin anew. And I'm crying and crying, and I was like, I have to die again. I knew it. I knew I had to die again. I needed to die to who I thought I was. So to make a long story short, I've gone on and on. I'm not searching anymore. I found what I was longing for, and it was me. It was me who wasn't conditioned by all the people in my life, me who does not believe what my mind tells me about myself, the essence of who I was born to be. And it's better than enlightenment.
Oh, can I ask you a question?
Please. I've been yakking all the way.
It's perfect. How old were you when you got the chart reading? Like, I'm trying to find the spaces
Okay.
of the changes. So when you went to Sedona and got your reading, like around what age was that?
I was about 46, 47. It was before I came off the roof. There was a time there. Yeah.
And that's kind of like what you're saying about the waiting. Like, it all happens in perfect timing. You didn't go searching for that at that time, but when the next phase was coming, the opportunity was presented for you to respond. But gosh, it's hard to get back and wait.
It is. I hated it. I'll be honest. I hated waiting. I'm from New York. We don't wait, and I joke, we wanted it yesterday, but that waiting, because I was always the one calling the friends, organizing something, calling the family. I was always the one initiating. And to stop doing that, wow. There was so much fear that nothing would come, fear of how am I going to pay the bills, the fear of, will anyone like me? Because I had a lot of friends when I started this experiment, and most of them fell away because they liked who I was. They didn't like who I was becoming.
That other identity. And I'm going to bring this back just for a second to, you said you were raised Catholic, like the Catholicism and St. Paul with dying to self and the old wines, like it's kind of speaking that same language. I think it's just like wherever we are in life at that time, like you're saying on your spiritual journey and what we needed, and fully trusting, even though it seems like some of those experiences are weird and we no longer believe them, it got us as far as it got us. I think we've talked about that on one of our sessions. There's a lot of righteousness in like, what's occultic, what's a it's like, that's not spiritual, and that's not Christian, and that's not, and it's like, actually it all just is.
I think for me, in human design, I have an open mind. I have an open ajna. So it was so easy for me to take in what others said, teachers or gurus or, any authority figure, doctors, everyone. I would just take it in and believe it to be true for me, or try to make it my truth. And what I love so much about where I am now is that no one outside of me can know. what's right for me. No one. They can't. They're not me. All the experts, they can't know. Yes, I can listen to what they have to say, but there's something inside of me that will say yes or no to what they're saying. I just don't accept it blindly, and I think that for me, it's I've never I never stood in myself in the way I do now. I was being emotionally open. I was so like, oh, not wanting to upset anyone, trying to calm everyone down, making my father cups of tea, all of these things, because I got to see who in my family was emotional, who wasn't, all of this, and the one thing I hated the waiting. I hated waiting. But I noticed something by waiting and not dissipating my energy, because that's what we do as generators and well, all of us really, we dissipate it. We just, I got to see something align inside of me. I go like this because it was as if this kind of like I was this blob, trying to be nice, trying to be friendly, trying to be helpful. You would ask me to do something and I would say yes. And if I said no, you could so easily talk me into it. And just this whole, that all of this kind of came in the waiting. And that took maybe a couple of weeks, a couple of months. I can't remember really, but it was soon in my experiment. I said, ooh, I've never experienced this before. And I'm alone and there's no teacher here. There's no one I'm sitting with. I'm not getting anything from the outside. I'm alone and this is happening inside of me. And I knew, well, this is different.
That's a great moment.
Uh-huh.
I'm getting glimpses of it, from like,
Ah,
but it's not like fully gelled, I would
yeah.
say, but I'll have moments enough to where my mind can surrender and I can trust something else. Like it's like, it's pleasant. And so I guess my brain is like, oh, that then maybe we'll get that again, or maybe we'll try that enough to start. Cause I've been on calls with you and it's the same fight. Now I'm emotional, you're sacral, and there is a difference.
Very
And
different.
I met your husband who is emotional. He's got a big emotion that moves with him.
Uh-huh.
And so that is something that's different with us. And for those who are listening, like Marianne is so solid in her sacral. And one of the things that you said that stuck with me is you'll know if your sacral is responding if you find you hear the answer at the same time as the other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For me, yes. Yes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It's scary having sacral authority, because all the other authorities in human design happen within the person. And then they can tell the other what their answer is. But sacral authority, you can ask me a yes, no question and I'll go, uh-huh. And I didn't know I was going to go, uh-huh. Or I didn't know it. I hear it and you hear it and we're both looking at it like, okay, what do we do now?
I actually respect and trust it so much more than when someone's talking and I don't know if they're just saying things to be nice or making something up, or I've gotten to where directness feels safe for me, transparency and directness. And I guess those take us to our next question moving through this is, once you have, like, you start integrating this, I'll call it this wisdom of the body, and you just behave differently in the world, like you move differently in the world. And yet the rest of the world is still mostly moving like it was. That's the discomfort for me. I'm not sure how that was for you, where you're like, it feels like such a gift. And we kind of want everyone to be there with us for us to be more comfortable. And we've talked
Right.
about that when you thought
Yeah.
everyone was going to want and need this, and
Yeah, no,
realized,
no, yeah, I couldn't imagine, and because I couldn't initiate, I didn't really tell people about type and everything. It was like I just stopped talking and waited. And people would, some old friends would say, "You're really different. What's going on?" I'd say, "I'm waiting." And I'd run away because I didn't know what to say. No, it was an interest for me. It was uncomfortable with people that I knew. That was where it was uncomfortable. My family called the woman who was running human design and wanted to know, what did Rod do to me? He didn't do anything. I just stopped initiating. So it was uncomfortable there. And, but with strangers, it was so easy. I would sit, I had a favorite coffee shop in Sedona, and I would sit there. And once in a while, something extraordinary would happen. A stranger would come and say, "Can I join you?" And I go, "Uh-huh." And they'd sit. I didn't say anything. I'm just waiting. I don't make small talk. "Hi, how are you? How's your day?" Nothing. I just sit. I'm waiting. This guy said, "Can I tell you a story?" I went, "Uh-huh." So he tells me a story. I mean, it was that kind of, the strangers came in correctly, which was very interesting for me. When I started this experiment, it was only much later, years later, that I really saw that I stepped out of life in a sense. I stepped out of life as I knew it. I stepped out of life as most people are living it. But I'm still a human on earth, and I'm part of this. But I'm not affected by that. It's out there and in here. This alignment, this stability, what would you? I don't like using the words like peace and all of this. It's an isness. I guess that's what I can say. It's just, I'm here. That's it.
does it feel
And
solid?
uh-huh. Oh yeah, You can't manipulate me, boy. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. You can ask me a zillion questions to try to get me to say yes to something you want from me. But it's going to, you know what I mean? As long as my sacral goes, I know it's correct for my energy. So it could be just the right question needs to be asked. I don't know, but no. And you could look at me before and I would feel guilty.
Mm-hmm.
I would just feel like I did something wrong. And I was so easily manipulated. And I cared what people thought of me. This was such a big one. I really cared what people thought of me.
I'm hoping that passes with this off the roof. I mean, I have moments, but there is no way I've arrived at this.
Yeah. Oh, I don't care anymore. Sometimes the mind, you see what I think a lot of the situations that we find ourselves in, where we're worried that people don't like us or they're upset with us. It's the mind talking to us that stirs all that up. So I got to really see my mind, and I don't believe what it says. So it doesn't try to get me like it used to.
Curious about this. So it is the mind that tells the story, and then it's how I feel, because the story is
Mhm.
scary. And then it's how I feel. Is that different for me as an emotional compared to
Uh-huh.
not an emotional?
Yeah, because your mind can stir up your emotions.
Mhm. It feels intense with
Uh-huh.
like what they're going to do or what's going to happen. And then it's
Uh-huh.
a
Uh-huh. It's the
that
nervousness
mhm.
of the solar plex. It's nervous. It's a nervousness, and that's in your body, that nervousness, and you know what you were saying before earlier about, you're not there, you have moments of it. That's because you're emotional. You need your time. You just need time. And for me, I'm in the moment because that's all I have. I'm not going deep into myself like you are, and all emotional people are. And it's so beautiful to see that the process is very different, but we're moving together. It's like I'm here, and you're going whoop, and then over here we meet.
Yeah, I probably have judgment and shame about that, like the emotional part of it. Like I judge the emotion. I judge that feeling. Like I should be solid. I should know better, that part. So it's
Mm.
probably what I'm responding to in that way.
Yeah,
Because I,
so many emotional people feel, oh, why am I indecisive? Why do I change my mind? Why did blah, 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 all of this? Because their emotions are moving. That's why for an emotional being, it's so important to give yourself the time before you say yes to something or no to something, because then you get to that place inside where you settle and your answer's there, rather than saying yes too fast or no too fast, and then thinking, oh, I should have, maybe I changed, no, this back and forth, back and forth. And I think that's destabilizing, where if you just know, I don't know yet, as an emotional being, I don't know yet if this is correct for me or not. And you just kind of wait.
love that you're saying this, because when I go on the solo travel trips,
Mhm.
I don't have nervousness about not knowing where I'm going next or what I'm going to eat or where I'm going to park or at all, because there's no one else. It's a pressure that I feel that I
Mhm.
have to answer to others who need to know or want to know, and so that's where I think it gets mixed up. But I'm just thinking about that last trip I went on. I had no nervousness about not knowing what to eat. I had no pressure about what time to get to the next place or any of that. But if I'm here and I have to decide like what we're doing next in the business or what my husband, where we're going to go, it's almost like
Yeah.
does that make sense? But when I'm by
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
myself,
It does. And do you want to hear what
yes, please.
I
Uh-huh.
see? Uh-huh. I my sense is that you just really need to be comfortable saying, I don't know what's next.
Mhm.
I don't know what we're going to eat. If you're hungry, eat something. Do you know what I mean? I mean, to not take it on you,
Mhm.
not take that pressure on you, because then your mind starts swirling. Well, I should know, and I've got the business and this, and I need to go. And the mind does this, and then the body's doing this, and then you're thrown off yourself. And nothing is worth being thrown off you. Nothing. It's better to live in a hut and have no money.
Mm.
Have
Because
you.
I'm nowhere in that situation. The nerve, everything in the pressure is about everyone else, what they're going to think, what
Mhm,
they're going to say, what they're coming back to what we just said earlier.
mhm.
That's good.
Yeah.
I heard you say on the other side of waiting is being.
Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, you can tell, yes. Mm.
Do you want to share with, because
Uh-huh,
I
uh-huh.
think waiting is the discipline, the challenge,
Uh-huh.
it's the
This is it.
catalyst for the growth and for the
And
becoming.
it's the process of transformation is in the waiting. And you know, I stopped doing readings just because, well, for me, there was so much information in a chart, and I couldn't spend enough time on what I felt was really important. Because, you know, as a generator, wait to respond, a projector, wait to be invited. You know, the manifester even has to wait. You know, there's this, but there's, you know, it's just a little snippet, and then you go into the channels and the this and the that. So that's why I just started working with sessions so that I could really be with someone. Um, the waiting, I didn't know when I started my experiment. I thought it was my inner authority that was transforming me. I thought it was what I was saying yes and no to, but it was only in retrospect that I saw, oh no, my inner authority was just the GPS, left turn, right turn, you know, but it was the waiting where who I thought I was died. You know, it was waiting, 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 waiting. And then for me, I went through this period of boredom, which I never allowed myself to feel before, bored, because I would just go do something. I go to India, I'd call a friend, you know. I never allowed myself to be bored. So it was waiting, waiting, and then boredom, oof, tears running down your eyes, kind of boredom. And then that left, and then at some point I was no longer waiting for anything. I was no longer initiating, but I wasn't waiting, because I was really waiting in the beginning, waiting to be asked to do something, because I was so used to doing. So it was, come on, ask me. I've got so much energy. I could really help you with your ask me. I didn't say it, but that's how I felt inside. It was all the cells of the body wanted to do something. So the waiting was like, it just really changed everything. And then I noticed that I just wasn't waiting. And then I realized I'm just being. And that's kind of where I am now. I'm not waiting for anything, you know, it doesn't matter if someone emails me or not, or asks me a question or not. It just doesn't matter. My life is happening.
Mhm. Do you want to hear what just came up? What I just,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
and so you were still trying to control the exterior. And it's like when someone's trying to heal their body and they continue to focus on this chronic pain because they're still trying to control something. And I see that now in the waiting, the impatience and the boredom is from waiting for something. But
Mm-hmm.
that really took me down another notch into understanding the mind body, like all of it, what you focus on, it comes back to what we focus on. And so I'm waiting, so that, in other words,
Mm-hmm.
like it's still about control. If I wait, I will get. If
Mm-hmm.
I do, then so I don't know if you can speak to that, but it just made a huge, like some spider webs cleared from my mind. And
Ah, cool.
and it just got super clear and calm. That's why I love talking to you, because it's these little moments that I recognize where I still have an aspect of that, or a part of it. There's like, I'm still kind of in some of that. And then it's just a moment of, oh, okay, I'm still initiating, trying to control and manipulate and make things happen. Like, okay, I'm still in the game. Let me back off. And it's nothing but a moment. It just gives me, it opens up a whole world for me.
Yeah. and also to not judge yourself.
Yeah.
That's a big one, huh?
Oh,
To not judge yourself, that, I just, oh, I'm still doing that kind of thing. There's a little bit of judgment.
yeah. There's like a hook that this is supposed to all be gone and the new identity should be here. And that's all over. Like, yeah, I'm off the roof. Let's go. Like, for sure.
Okay.
You know me enough. Like, I'm transparent. It's there. I actually feel like if I talk about it and expose it, that I actually get on the other side. Like, but I have to have that awareness with myself, whether it's someone else showing me or just hearing it.
And the other thing is, what's the hurry?
Mm-hmm.
You're on the journey. It's all unfolding. It'll happen when it happens. There's nothing you can do to speed it up.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing you can fuck up. Well, I don't know if I can say that.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? I'm
okay. All right.
You're fine.
There's nothing, no, you can't make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
There's no mistakes. It's just you're being taken. So, yes, this may be still there, but it's meant to still be there. Mm-hmm. And it will leave when it's meant to leave. So you can just relax into what is, and what's happening and how it's happening, because it's taking you. And it's trust is often the mind trusting. When we say trust, it's all, I know I did anyway in my whole spiritual search. Trust in existence, trust. It was me talking, telling myself, just trust. And now there's this, it's in the body. Mm-hmm. It's fallen into the body. And in that, I just see that whatever's happening, it's perfect, even if the plane's canceled or we have to go back to the airport 2 times, or it's just, mm-hmm. It just seems like whatever's being lived through this, it's meant to happen, and there's such a deep relaxation in that. Yeah.
Liberation comes to mind. It's just expand.
It's like
and ease.
Can
I ask you a question about resistance?
Mm-hmm.
You talked about it was like bumping into things, like what is resistance? Is it obstacles? Is it like, for some people, I'm talking to different levels of people listening to this. So for some people, like, it's just not happening is resistance. Like, that's hard. But my experience in this is when I initiate, it is a different feeling of resistance that I get from the other.
That's what I speak of with resistance. It's for me, I've tried it a few times because it is an experiment. Way back in the beginning, I initiated with friends, let's say. And it wasn't, in that case, I met resistance, but it was as if I never said anything and I was invisible. It was like a ghost just walked by. I mean, that was really strange. And the resistance is, telling someone what they should do. Oh my God, I mean, I see this all the time, I see it, I watching couples in restaurants or on the cruise ship or whatever, just, Oh my God. It's like the resistance is like, but it's not in words. It's like an energetic pushback that I'm so shocked that the wife or the husband isn't blown across the room, you know? It's often resistance is this energetic pushback. It's not, doesn't have to be verbal. It can be verbal, but it's you can feel it. You can just feel it. But I everybody out there's doing it. So until you step out of that, you don't even recognize that energetic resistance. Maybe you do. I don't know, but I didn't. I was oblivious to it. You know, I just thought this is, and then you try to say it a different way or whatever.
Only when, like, the awareness of it's a different feeling than other things. It's almost like that, the rejection or there's like, oh, I gotta convey, there's something that I feel something. And then I recognize, like, I have to go into self-inquiry to see what I did. And now it's starting to play out. I'm starting to get some data. This happens when. That settles me back into the waiting. But this is a lifetime of doing, being the boss, being in charge, owning the business, having to run the kids, and it's like, it's it feels normal, like it's like what I'm supposed to do. And then now that I'm aware, it's like painful, it's disheartening. And so it's getting my attention that my agenda is not worthy of that result, kind of thing. Like my agenda, or whatever. But I really don't know I'm doing it when I do. It's a habit. I won't see it till after.
It's an old pattern of behavior that's been conditioned in your body. So that's why I say it takes time, because it takes time for it to leave the body. That's why, Rob would say it's a 7-year experiment, because the cells of the body change within 7 years, almost all of them, just a few don't, So this resistance, it's like, once you start waiting, I think that's when you start becoming more sensitive. Because when it's like so busy going towards, that was me going towards. So there was no sensitivity. I wasn't feeling what was coming into me, what was coming towards me. Very different than, and I remember Ra talking about, like a movie camera, but you're recording what's coming towards you rather than you going towards something. It's like you're just, it's coming towards you. And I think that's, for me, I became more and more sensitive. And in the beginning, I mean, I wondered how I was going to survive in the world, because I felt like I shed skins of protection, and I'd go into a restaurant and the waitress would want to sit me over here. I go, just the energy around that table, it was just like awful. I couldn't be near it, so my husband was even saying, boy, you can't go anywhere anymore. And he's defined solar plex and defined mind. I have both open, so lots coming in, It's very different now. It's very different. It was just really super sensitive, especially in the beginning, because the outer layers were shedding or shattering, however you want to say it. And it was like I was looking for something. I was looking out there, looking for the teacher or someone to help me or someone who knew. And what I got to see is it was just layer upon layer upon layer of conditioning that needed to fall away or shatter or whatever, because what I was looking for was inside all of that. Always has been. Always has been. That's the beauty of it. It's just there. It's just covered over, It's just so There's nothing to get. There's no goal. That's why, when you were saying before about, you just want to be there kind of, but there's no goal. No, after 7 years, you don't get a Rolex. You just go 8 years, 9 years. Now it's, what is it now? 20, 25 years.
Amazing.
I mean, it's just doesn't mean anything, because if you're just being you, there's no time.
Yeah. And there's no threat. There's nothing to lose, because you're not like those layers and layers of protection are gone. You feel raw, and then you adapt to that new way. And then what do you have to lose? You're raw. I mean, here it is. There's you can't get under there. I'm not hiding it.
You love me. You can hate me. I like me. I love me.
Yeah. I want to respect your time and still get to the things that you're offering. So can we talk about that? Are you talk about that? I'm curious about because you are one of the few that are not about all this knowledge and information and like all the stuff in human design, which I really respect, because I see a lot of labeling and control, like a lot of things happen, limitations and stuff happening in that. So when you did the immersions, which I know you're not doing that anymore, but luckily I was able to go to some of those, and they were life-changing to be in. It's the contrast, I think, is what was so valuable. Having the contrast of in the awareness of this is what it's like with this is what it's like without this, like that, because I have to feel it. And once I feel it, I got it. Kind of like I'm saying about this whole where I want to arrive is to get out of that judgment of myself, which I can in this moment when I quit judging myself and my journey. But the thing that you're doing now, you're kind of finding this new playground for yourself, which I love that too. And I'm like, is that something we're going to be able to do together?
It's correct for you. You're always welcome.
Yeah. So the 6-2 thing you're doing, I'm just curious, why did you decide to do it for 6-2s? Of course, that excited me. And what does that look like? Do you know yet?
No, it was just there. It was just there. And I felt that, at first it was just for 6-2s. And then I realized how valuable it would have been for me if my parents knew, or, a lover, or, so I opened it up so anyone who's married to a 6-2 or has 6-2 children, that kind of thing, could feel okay to come. That's the online one. Yeah. And then the immersions, I had focused. It was when I still felt that, I guess, we still had some control. Because, that it was about setting up a place and a space for people to really live their design.
Ideas speak it to me.
Which was so beautiful. I loved it. It was not incorrect. It was just beautiful. But over the years, I've been doing them now for, wow, I don't even know, a long time, 15 years maybe. I started to feel that to live this is not easy, and not everyone's going to be able to live it. That's it, and I really want to be able to offer everyone, whether they can live it or not, something to help them stabilize in this world, because the world is really shifting and, a lot's going on. So that's how I came up with this new one of Love Yourself. And it's 5 mornings, and I don't want to say what it is because it has to be a surprise each morning. But it's still about the experiment, but not focused on, living your design kind of thing.
I'm curious about two things if I can ask. One is
Uh-huh.
about, it's okay,
Uh-huh.
that the pressure of the 6-2, like that wanting everyone to get like that,
Mm,
having people optimize, like, can't you see your potential?
mm, mm,
That's what I think I'm recognizing when you say.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I work with healers and healing focused individuals and coaches who,
mm,
it's a
mm,
lot of that. I attract 6-2s.
mhm.
Do you want to say something on that or not really? Like,
Yeah,
were you able to release it?
no, it fell away.
Hmm.
It fell away. It just fell away, I mean, I noticed how I was changing in the immersions from when I started. It was this intensity in me. That's all I can say. An intensity, but with care,
Mhm.
and and over the years there was more and more and more compassion for just our humanness,
Mhm. Mhm. I sense that.
just our humanness, and that just the one thing that I didn't want, whoa, is human design is so beautiful. But it's not meant for someone to feel bad or to suffer because they can't live their strategy or they can't honor their inner authority, whatever it is. And
Mhm.
that's when I felt, no, this is, and I saw it. I saw the whole unfolding of it, this love yourself, because that's what it's about. It's about loving yourself, not about suffering because you can't do something. So
Mhm.
that was what became important for me. That's what's important for me now, especially in the world the way it is, and whatever I can give that's inside of me to help people have some tools to live in this world as themselves. That's what I'm here for.
Mhm. I can relate to that I'm deep on a deep level.
Mhm.
Almost like wanting it so bad for them, and then that actually a pressure coming out of that they feel, then they judge themselves because of that. Like I can see it where I've done that. Like it's in my awareness, like thinking I'm doing it for them or to show them, but then them judging themselves
Yeah.
in that way. So that makes total sense. So just to get clear, the 6-2 gathering is online, and the thing that you're talking about, the 5 days, that's going to happen in Sedona,
And on Ibiza.
and January 22nd, and then Ibiza is 6-2s in person
Right. And also love yourself in person.
in Sedona for
Yeah. And
everyone.
on Ibiza too.
Okay, is the Sedona ones just 6-2s or for everyone?
Oh, the Sedona is love yourself. That's for everyone.
It's for everyone. So for 6-2s who are listening, there is an online gathering coming up very soon. And I will link your website here underneath our in the info. And then Ibiza is happening in October, the end of October.
Mhm.
And that is for 6-2s only.
No, that's love
Love
yourself is
yourself.
in October. And then November is the 6-2s live.
Oh, I see. I thought when you put the date for the October one that you changed it, but it's 2.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
It's two separate things.
so
Yes.
I have to go like from October to November?
Oh, what a pity. Ibiza.
Doing it. Oh, I've got to go recheck that. I'm glad I asked. Is there anything that I did not ask you that came up for you or that you would want to share?
Mm, I don't know. Hmm.
Do you feel complete?
I really enjoyed being here with you like this. I mean, we've had so much time together too. It's very, very sweet to do this together. And yeah, I mean, I love human design, and I searched so long before, almost 25 years before I had my reading with Ra. And I feel I can't say that it's the only thing out there. I can't. And I think that's really important to for me to say that it was the only thing that worked for me, that got me home to myself, because I had looked everywhere. But I don't know what else is out there. I think that yeah, it's an amazing tool for transformation, and I'm just so grateful to Ra for wow, all the energy this man put out to get it out there. I mean, really. And all he wanted to do was make music. And the universe gave him this job. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah.
I've contemplated on that, like human design brought me, it was like such a gift of knowing myself, like being okay with myself, or seeing myself maybe for the first time. And then I don't know that it would have been worked as the beginning. I think I needed all of the searching, all of the spirituality, all of the healing, all of that experience to kind of, like you're saying, finally had tried everything in my power, everything that I had experienced, like mind, body, beyond the mind, like all of the things.
Oh, there's so much to try too.
And when I think of it that way, I can see where some people would see like, oh, it's occultic, or it's like, they're just like, it's antichrist, or I hear those things. And I can see where I would have likely judged that too, if I hadn't found it when I found it, coming off the roof, having been through all the experience. And so when you were telling your story about what you had gone through first, that, it's possible that those things gave us access to be okay with it. Whereas I think expecting someone else to get it at the beginning, like, here, this is great for me, it should be great for you, and they haven't been through some experiences that they need before.
And see, what's so wonderful about what you just said, if you're waiting and you're not telling people about it, they'll get to feel something in you shifting, and then they want to know. And that's so different than us telling about it to someone. It's so magical. Yeah, and I also feel that sometimes just someone who hasn't been searching, it's almost easier to go into, to try the experiment and to try it out, because there's not all the mental concepts. I thought for sure that because I had done all this work on myself, it would not take 7 years. Oh no, it took every moment, so it's
Are you saying because it's like kind of that detangling of all the other concepts in? So see that.
Yeah. It's a lot of watching the mental structures and the thinking structures and the belief systems, the belief systems I grew up with from the family, then the belief systems of my spiritual searching and all of that,
I love that, because it really shows, like, far exceeded, probably because the mind was so busy, right? Like the trying to figure it out. And yet we still get where we where you're
Uh-huh.
supposed to go.
Uh-huh. And
If
the
you
one,
stay, you just have to
yeah,
stay.
and the one thing that I did in the beginning when I had my reading was my mind did is it made everything before my reading wrong.
Uh-huh.
You know, it wanted to throw everything away, everything that I had lived, because I had never waited. I had never made a decision from my sacral authority. I mean, what the mind does is like, but I didn't understand the mind then. And it took me quite a while to get to the place of seeing that everything I have lived, I needed to live exactly that because it brought me to this moment. Anything different wouldn't have brought me to this moment. So you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly, all of it, the beautiful, everything, the devastating,
Mm-hmm.
all of it. And it brought me to this moment. And this is what I really feel inside now is all of that was needed, and all that's happening is needed, and all that's coming is needed. You know, it's just this this journey in this life in human form. Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I think the judgment and comparison, I mean, that's where we suffer. What's right? What's moral? What are you supposed to do? What did you do bad or wrong? That's where my suffering comes from, for sure. And when you see it's all part of a whole.
And it's all the mind talking, you know, the mind comparing, the mind judging, the mind telling us we did this wrong or that right or whatever, you know, or yeah.
Thank you for being an inspiration, for being the first to go through the waiting for me in my life, being the example of the one that that waits and gets to the being on the other side, because that is for sure something that I crave. And I just can't tell you how much gratitude I have that I'll say I found someone, because that's what it feels like, that was available to witness my experiment and process. That's it. That's the what I'm most grateful for. You never try to tell me what to do. You never give me a right or wrong or anything like that. It's just a witnessing. And that's yeah. So thank you. All right. I will put your information below. And so that way they can contact you if they want something, because you might say yes today and you'll know tomorrow, and that's not my business, but it's yours. And I trust you know how to handle that. So I'm going to go ahead and end this live.
Okay. Bye.